Hi, welcome at this session about Delphi keystrokes. I'm Danny Wind. I've been developing in Delphi for, well, let's say some years. I also do training, presentation, all sorts of stuff, as long as it's Delphi. Well, there are a number of keystrokes I frequently use, and it's these keystrokes I'd like to show you in this workshop. And instead of just making a dry list, such as this, I'm going to use these keystrokes when creating a demo using visual livebindings to connect the data in a class to a user interface. So besides seeing the keystrokes in action, this will also give you some useful code to use in your own projects later on. Okay, this demo is coded in Delphi XD4. I'm going to start it up. Let's start with an empty FireMonkey desktop application. File, new desktop application, and we're going to use an HD application, which is basically 2D. Let's rename the form, and we're going to do that by switching to the object inspector, which is here. We're going to do that with F11. If you switch to the object inspector and you'd like to change one of the properties, you can do F11 tap C or tap whatever character you want to change, for instance, the caption of the form. And it's kind of a quick key to get to the correct property in the object inspector. Placing components, you can do that with the IDE Insight. You can call up IDE Insight with F6, and it gives you access to just about everything, including components, such as a button. Of course, you can also place components using the tool palette, such as edit component. We're going to place two edit components, one with IDE Insight. If you type in edit in IDE Insight, you'll notice that it will say edit copy, and you just have to add some T to make it a component. With a shift left click, I can select all components to align them to the left sides. I'm also going to do some resizing. Select this one, make it a little bigger, and then position, no, not position, I meant size. Right click position, size, grow to largest, that's the one I was looking for. With F11 you can switch to object inspector. With F12 you can actually switch to code. And in this code I'm going to add a class declaration, T-person. And in T-person I'm going to add two properties, the name and the age of the person. And I'm going to bind these properties to the user interface, to the two edits I've just edited onto the form. So property name, type string, and a property age of type, well, string as well. With Ctrl-Shift-C I can actually complete the code. So you get two procedures, two setters for the two properties. And I'm going to use the setter of setAge to implement some simple checking if it's a number. With control space you can actually call up code completion. So for instance, you don't know the name of a method or procedure you're about to call, you can use control space. And with control click you can go to the declaration of such a procedure, or just going up and down in declaration and implementation, control shift up and down, like that. Okay, in the button one click, I'm going to add the instance creation for person. First I'm going to add a variable, person type T-person, and then the instance creation. Person is in T-person, that's created here, and let's initialize it here as well. Normally you'd use a constructor, but that's something for another workshop. So person name is Danny Wind, and the person age is well, I'm pretty old, so let's just 77. Okay, that's all about it. I'm going to bookmark it with a Ctrl-Shift-1, so I can actually return to this piece of code later on. And you'll notice a little book on the left side in the gutter. And you can actually switch back with Ctrl-1, and you can add 10 bookmarks if you like. Well, actually it's 9, so it's 1 through 9, so it's 9 bookmarks. I'm going to add a bindings list, and I'm going to use the bindings list to add two links to link the edits to the properties. So it's a new binding, it's a link control to property. I'm going to add two of those. Okay, I'm gonna use the form. The form is not selectable here, by the way, in the component, but you can just add it. It'll work just fine. And the component property person.name, by selecting the component form, you can actually go to the fields of the form, which is a person, and then the properties of the field, so person.age. The errors you're just seeing on the on setting edit 1 and edit 1 and edit 2, just don't worry about it. It's gonna work just fine in runtime. I set auto activate on false because I want to activate it in the button click. So I'll be able to see when clicking the button what the binding actually does. So I'm going to activate it here for link control 1 and link control 2. So that should work. Okay, I've now created a one-way binding, by the way, binding the form class and the edit, but just one way. So if you edit something in the edits, it's gonna get into the class. Okay, so let's just run it. Initially, if you click the button, you'll see code appearing. Danny Winden 77 is there, but it's just an initial initialization. And as you can see, if I put something in that's not a number, it will give an error. And if you put a number in it, it'll work just fine. So it does actually go from form, the edits, to the class. So it's from the edits to the form, as you can see in the Visual livebindings editor. One last thing to demo. Code beautifier or code formatter actually is Ctrl-D. It'll allow you to just format the code according to the Embarcadero standard. It's just an easy thing to do. Okay, that's about it. I'm just going to show you the Visual livebinding again. And well, thank you for looking at this workshop. And perhaps we'll meet again online or perhaps in a live event. Bye.